birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr.
Donkey Kong.
Happy birthday to you.
Birthday celebrations in the shared universe of Donkey Kong and Rare typically never go to plan. Either they're completely forgotten by your closest relatives, with the natural disaster holding back the one person who remembered and still bought you a completely thoughtless gift. Or they're crashed by skeevy perverts hiding in a giant cake, abducting not only the person who threw the party, but your presents and even invitations. Why would you also take the party invites, Evil Acord? Are you like, let's make it legal and think that confers you the right to kidnap? This is the worst day of Conker and Barry's lives. Well, almost. And Donkey Kong's birthday party, as seen at the beginning of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, is no exception to this rule. Yeah, it's a bit weird that his oldest friend Funky wasn't invited, or his girlfriend Candy. I'm sure there was no monkey business happening there. Look, they probably all had plans later, okay? With Lanky holding the camera. But I digress. The birthday aspect of the game is just window dressing. A reason to have the 4 original playable characters in the same place at the same time for the Snowmad's invasion and hostile takeover of Donkey Kong Island. Some like it hot, but not them. Aside from the Snowmad's runes being wrapped in the boxes that presumably had contained DK's presents, his birthday has no true bearing on the rest of the game. Although one could argue that the freezing of DK Island is a metaphor for our fear of aging, the collective death march toward the winter of our lives. However, that's a bit much when it concerns video game characters, who will always stay eternally youthful if their rights holders allow it. Sure, the original Donkey Kong was aged into an elderly curmudgeon, and his wife succumbed to her own mortality, while Tiny was later documented reaching her teenage years. But as the decades stretch out before us, it's unlikely that the reflection of real time will continue to be addressed in the DKU. According to marketing materials, Conker reached his 21st birthday between the events of Pocket Tales and Bad Fur Day. A decade passed between Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. And with the permission of Nintendo, Donkey and Diddy participated in several real-world Olympic Games between 2010 and 2021. But as new, mainline entries of series have gradually been more spaced out, and the memories of these beloved characters have become engraved like stone in time, the likelihood that the current Donkey Kong will ever age out of the role becomes lessened with each passing year. At some point, if it hasn't already, the DKU will become unmoored from our own calendar, and a nebulous, shifting timeline will take over to keep the characters perpetually in the summertime of their lives. One brief, shining moment known as Camelot that stretched for eternity. So age is just a number. And if the Xbox One and Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3 taught me anything, numbers are irrelevant. Because you're as young as you feel, baby. Which is why I don't care if anybody watches this video. Seriously, doesn't bother me. View counts are also just a number. Just like the shift from Arabic to Roman numerals in the Donkey Kong Land series doesn't bother me. They're just numbers. Despite Donkey Kong Land 2 originally using the Roman numerals, so if they wanted to use the Roman numerals all along, they could have just used the Roman numerals
instead of shifting to Arabic numerals shortly before Donkey Kong Land 2's release.
Please let us know in the comments if this huge, glaring inconsistency also doesn't bother you, a rational person with real-world problems, because it's totally fine. Oh look, even the LED logo is visually inconsistent. That's great, that's just great. But even if Donkey Kong never gets the same gray hairs as his father/grandfather, the birthday he celebrates in Tropical Freeze still marks the in-universe progression of 1 year of his lifetime. Birthdays are still a thing, even if the 7-year itch gets reduced all the way down to 1 or 2. So what day of the year does Donkey Kong hear the happy birthday song? Now, a character's in-universe birthday is usually nothing more than trivia, something that provides an extra detail, an added bit of flavor text for the world, while being something the fans can embrace as a reason to celebrate their favorite universe publicly. Sometimes these birthdays are attached to a specific year, while other times the only unmovable marker for characters on that sliding timescale is the day itself. For the latter, Superman's birthday is February 29th, Leap Day, because he can do it over buildings in a single bound or something. But the year itself obviously shifts forward to keep the character relatively young. We wouldn't want Superman to die, would we? Meanwhile, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, a character whose traditional portrayal is rooted in Victorian and Edwardian London, is said to have been born in the year 1854 on January 6th. Well, I guess the misfits here must all be Rocket's Sherlock Holmes fans celebrating his birthday. What a fine Hound of the Baskervilles cosplay, good sir. Okay, I'm uncomfortable. Can we move on? But does Donkey Kong have a birth date worthy of similar rapturous jubilation? Despite my obsessive chronicling of DKU lore over the years, throughout the book depositories of instruction manuals, player's guides, and website articles, I'll be the first to admit that most of this so-called continuity is simply accidental. There's never been a master plan for keeping any of this stuff consistent. Sure, Lee Loveday and later Rare employees like Chris Allcock would do their best to make sure the DKU lore, as it was, stayed dependable for the fans. Outside of Rare, studios like Payon would pick up on details left behind and run with them, giving the illusion that all of this nonsense makes the slightest bit of sense. But by and large, the DKU has soldiered on for almost 30 years by simply getting lucky and dodging magic bullets. You think that something's got to give, but there hasn't been anything so contradictory that it can't be explained away by fanatics like us at DK Vine. But with that being said, yes, Donkey Kong does have an in-universe birth date. No, it's never been spoken aloud or established in the games. But by piecing together the most minute of canonical details and real-world information, we can determine the exact day Donkey Kong burst out of the birth canal. I'm not a crazed conspiracy theorist, okay? Think me more as a lone funman who's just incredibly observant. As I mentioned, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze begins with DK's birthday party. Now, a general rule of thumb we've had at DK Vine, since even before we launched in 1999, is that, unless otherwise specified, a game's release date should be considered its timeline setting. This obviously wouldn't apply to cases like the aforementioned Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, designated prequels or midquels like Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge, and remakes like the Donkey Kong Country trilogy on Game Boy Advance, which are explicitly retellings of past adventures with previously unseen context. but it's an overall benchmark to keep everything consistent. And while international release dates could vary wildly up until only recently, there's little harm if Japanese fans believe Donkey Kong 64 took place on December 12, 1999, while those in the Americas argue for its placement on November 22nd. Son of a bitch. So Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was released in February 2014. However, it was initially planned and announced as arriving in November 2013, receiving a delay mere months before its targeted release. And its intended autumnal setting is quite apparent when you factor in the game's second world, Autumn Heights, a temperate mountain in a persistent state of Oktoberfest, where a citizen might always say, "Ich bin ein Berliner," before downing another frothy Stein. The falling leaves suggest this is more than a mere lifestyle choice for the residents of the island. No, it's literally autumn when the Kongs cross into the island. Now, for timing purposes, we're also assuming Autumn Heights is within the Northern Hemisphere, which, given how heavily Dixie Kong is pushed in the world, and the thematic similarities to her first starring role in Donkey Kong Country 3, itself taking place in the Northern Cremisphere, well, it's a safe assumption. There are probably relations to the Brothers Bear just over those hills. It's bowling balls all the way down, even if the only bear seen in Tropical Freeze was in its Bay of Pigs. Maybe Robert McNamara here got them all drafted and killed in the Crimean War. Now, one world prior to Autumn Heights is the game's first area, the Island of Lost Mangroves. Take the secret portal out of Shipwreck Shore, and you'll wind up in the level's zip-line shrine, the first time that night falls during this adventure. From the very beginning of the stage, you'll notice that a fireball appears in the sky, the first of several in the level. And this is where things get interesting. Because the annual Orionids meteor shower approaches its peak every year in late October. In October of 2013, a matter of weeks or even days before the game was first scheduled to arrive, the Orionids zenith was between Monday the 21st and Tuesday the 22nd. But that's a wild swing worthy of Joe DiMaggio, right? After all, who's to say that Tropical Freeze doesn't take place in February? Well, keep in mind that Tropical Freeze wasn't the first time that Donkey Kong's birthday was depicted in a video game. For that, we need to go all the way back to the dangerous years of the buyout era with Mario Party 4. Mario Party 4 was the first game in the series after the original Nintendo 64 trilogy, which concluded with Mario Party 3 seemingly settling once and for all who the superstar actually was. So what event prompted the reunion of the formerly feuding cast of Mario Kart 64, with the addition of Mario Tennis's Daisy and Waluigi, fashionably late arrivals in Party 3? Well, the game's plot suggests it's one of their birthdays, as they are all sent party invites miraculously unswiped by the evil Acorn. With the appearance of the mysterious Party Cube on the horizon, a floating holodeck environment captained by Toad and a Goomba, Shy Guy, Boo, and Koopa, it becomes clear that Toad invited them all under the auspices of a birthday party, but really for the purpose of testing out his newest business venture, a simulated virtual environment that can spin up Mario Party boards on demand. It's later revealed during the game's credits that the Party Cube wasn't built by Toad and his business partners, but rather appeared to them as a literal deus ex machina, which they graffitied, vandalized, and took over. Don't bother to knock, Toad. No matter which character you play as, the game's story mode will treat it as their birthday. And the ultimate goal of playing through as every character to collect all 6 of their little presents, which can all be viewed side by side in the present room, proves it's not all inconsistent canon that completely depends on the personal whims of the player. How did they know that all Donkey Kong wanted was a dollar store tabletop nativity scene of his treehouse, complete with a banana stand? It seems Toad's plan to product test the party cube involved celebrating all of the characters' birthdays at the exact same time, and then giving them these outrageously thoughtless gifts. But still more thoughtful than a bowling ball. I propose that the birthdays of Donkey, Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, Wario, Daisy, and Waluigi all roughly fall in the same month, either before or after the events of Mario Party 4. And when did Mario Party 4 come out? It was first released internationally in the Americas, appearing on store shelves on October 21st, the day 11 years later that would see the Orionids meteor shower at its brightest in the sky, on the night of Donkey Kong's birthday party. So there you have it. Donkey Kong's birthday is on October 21st, which puts him just at the tail end of being a Libra. Libras, which are associated with the scales of justice or balance. Libras, who are known as natural peacemakers. Libras also favor partnerships, dislike being alone, and thus are often terrific friends and lovers, albeit held back by their desire for material possessions. Gentlemen prefer blondes, but this gentleman prefers banana yellow. Still, they're often able to find meaning in the beauty of music and travel, preferring nature to the asphalt jungle, and striving for equilibrium in all areas of life.
Happy birthday, DK. The ditty is my favorite Kong. You had the grace to hold him up because you were most strong. Critics said should have been Metroid. Kotaku.com caused us pain. Super Mario 3D World made you delay a game. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind. You get it. You get it.